before you guys jumped on him. I think I'm starting him in 2 or 3 FFPC leagues. I think I'm sitting him in 3 or 4. And I just I want to he's a guy I want to get in there, Bateman, a little bit more. Especially, I'm always a sucker for primetime too. Like I want to sit and watch him, and I want to see him smash. But it's tough because Miami's got 2 good outside corners, and Bateman plays. I don't know. Jared can tell me more about where he plays, but I think he plays more on the outside. But
yeah.
So that's where I struggle is that part of it. But yeah, no, I love Bateman.
Yeah, he's definitely worth having. And I want to kind of put a pin in that. We were having a little discussion on projections right before we went live. Do you use projections? How do you do them? Like in my head, I like projections, but the problem I have is it's like everything gets condensed down to a single number, and my brain just has trouble with like, okay, well, this guy's got a projection of 12.2. This guy's got a projection of 15.5. But I'm more like trying to imagine what's the bell curve in my head, of what are the range of outcomes and how does that, how do those overlap? What's most likely? What does my team need? All that kind of stuff just kind of, flows into my head, which is not to say projections aren't valuable, because they are, because you got to have a starting point. You got to have kind of a midpoint for, whatever your bell curve is, but it's just, it's tough to get it all down to one number. Mm-hmm. I admire the people who can.
No, I totally agree with you. And we, on DraftSharks, we have the baseline projection, but we also have a ceiling and a floor projection for every player too, so you can kind of see the range of outcomes that we have for each guy.
Yeah, that's definitely handy then. Yeah, for sure.
I think it's also I think that's a great point Dan made about the range of outcomes, and I think that a lot of sharp players will look at it that way. I think another also way to look at a guy like Bateman that might be more like a high upside type play. Kind of when you get into and you look at your opponent and you look at the particular week and you say to yourself, can I outscore this guy with just these, the Hunter Renfrows of the world types, or do I need to really swing for it? So I think that was a good point.
Yeah, and not everything is a bell curve either. Some are skewed to the left, skewed to the right, whatever. So you've got to take that into account as well. But it just makes it. For me anyway, I've got to kind of visualize that if I've got a tough decision.
All right, guys. Welcome to the Thursday tailgate. We got our boy Wheeler in the chat, Joey Brown in the house. And guys, we're getting right into it. We already started. We started before the red button. You guys were chatting it up. I was busy with my 5-year-old's teacher parent meeting. That was my first, so that was interesting. But and a lot to talk about tonight. So we're gonna make this super easy. You guys remember Jared back from the DraftSharks, and then we got our boy Adam. Guys, welcome. Jared, you've been on the show. Adam, your first time. We appreciate you jumping on, brother. Elephant in the room. Obviously, if you guys have something you want to plug or anything, throw it in there. But let's start with the elephant in the room. I'll go to Adam as the newest guest on the show. The OBJ situation, dude. Just start it off. Let's just start this thing off for us.
Oh man, what a great night to have a podcast, right? Perfect timing. Yeah, as a Cooper Cup owner, I want to puke everywhere. Well, I initially wanted to. I'm like, what do I do? And this is where we were talking about projections. Like, this is where I really want to know what Jared thinks, because Jared will sit down and plug all the numbers into a computer and he'll tell us, hey, don't worry, because Cooper Cup plays the slot and Beckham plays the outside. I'm hoping that's what Jared's gonna tell us, and and all of us Cooper Cup owners are gonna be just fine. I've got my own shares of Beckham, but yeah, I think Van Jefferson's dead now. I think that Robert Woods' ceiling is much lower now. Beckham's playable, at least. I hadn't really been playing him recently, and if I'd had to, I wasn't excited about it. But he's definitely an exciting play now with a much higher ceiling, and I do think that Cup will be okay. I think his role, usually guys that work the slot their roles aren't affected too much when stuff like this happens. So, I can only think maybe a situation like Tyler Boyd, they have Higgins and Chase now, so he's kind of been a problem, but I don't think that Beckham's going to have the Chase effect on this offense. So I think he's going to have some splash spots here in the next couple weeks. And but yeah, other than that, I think he just caps the ceiling of everybody, and I think Cooper Kupp will still do his thing.
Jared, talk to us about this computer you got. What's this thing called, the computer that you're punching numbers into, man?
Cooper Kupp's going to be fine. I mean, he can fall. He can fall a little bit and still be awesome. I mean, he's been the top wide receiver in fantasy. Maybe he's not going to see 13 targets a game. Maybe it's 11 targets a game. I mean, OBJ is going to step into the Van Jefferson role. And if you look at what Jefferson has done, if you look at the past 3 weeks, which is basically when Deshaun Jackson was phased out, and then D-Jax didn't even play the last couple games. But I mean, Van Jefferson played 94, 84, and 96% of the Rams' offensive snaps. This is a base 3 wide receiver offense. Beckham's going to be on the field once he gets accustomed to the offense. And Jefferson saw 7, 6, and 7 targets in the last 3 games too. So to me, that's about where we should expect Beckham to be once he gets up to speed. And that's that's not going to take anything away from Cooper Kupp. Now, a healthy Beckham is better than Van Jefferson, so maybe he takes a little bit away from Kupp and a little bit away from Robert Woods. I think Tyler Higbee is a guy who might get dinged quite a bit here. He might lose some volume. But I mean, there's room for all these guys here. I mean, this is a fast-paced offense. The Rams are near the top of the league in pass rate. That might climb with Beckham around. So I think there's enough room for Beckham to be fantasy relevant, Kupp to still smash, and Robert Woods to even still be like a borderline wide receiver too.
Yeah, I think that's. I agree with Jared on that. By the way, a quick shout out for DraftSharks. Their comeback player of the year was Cooper Kupp this year, so that paid for your subscription. If you decide to join DraftSharks, that was the league winner dropped by you guys.
Which is what Joey Brown says here in the chat, pointing out the last time Jared was on, he signed up and he's glad he picked up Cooper Kupp. So great point, Theo.
Boom.
There you go.
No doubt. So I agree. I think there's also an optimistic outlook here where adding another high quality wide receiver makes the pie grow larger and kind of everybody eats. There'll be more opportunities for everybody. But I think at this point, Cooper Kupp is just unflappable. The guy looks fantastic. I do think this hurts Van Jefferson probably the most. But I think that there's a chance that the entire offense just kind of goes nuclear, especially with they have a late bye week coming up. So they can kind of, change up the usage, after that. So it's very, very exciting. I mean, they added Von Miller and OBJ within the last 10 days. It doesn't get more exciting than that if you're a Rams fan. How about you, Dan? How are you looking at it?
Yeah, I definitely agree with all that. I mean, the questions in my head are, number one, is OBJ better than Van Jefferson? I think he is. But, we've seen little evidence in the last 3 years, and exactly, whose fault that is or what fault that is, you can look at it a lot of different ways. I certainly have a couple of OBJ shares that were kind of FOMO shares. I just, towards the end of the season, I'm like, yeah, I better get a couple shares of OBJ. And then I was regretting that. But, I guess, the big question is, let's assume that we find out on, Friday or Saturday that he's going to play on Monday night. How desperate do you have to be to start OBJ? What's your desperation level to throw him in there for his first day with the Rams, less than a week into the team?
Before you guys answer that, I'll throw in real quick. I'm selling the news. I was going to ask Dan, you selling the news or I'm selling the news, man. Especially a guy like OBJ, that guy could tomorrow end up, who knows? Literally, who knows? So for me, this is the prime opportunity. If you still have your OBJ shares, in my opinion, this is time to sell. Cooper Kupp, obviously, no panic sell there. If anything, try to go out and buy him. A little sneaky benefiter of this is definitely for me, Donovan Peoples-Jones in Cleveland. I don't think anyone else there is really. He's barely been on the field, OBJ. So, that offense will keep rolling as they roll. But yeah, get back to Dan's question. But I'm definitely selling the news. Maybe you guys can throw in what you're doing with it, buy sell wise with these pieces. Adam, go ahead, buddy. You seem like you had something there.
Yeah, I would if for buy sell. I don't play in a lot of leagues where I can buy or sell, but I'm right there with it. If you had a chance to go out and grab Cooper Kupp now, but yeah, you can sell this Beckham because I mean he's going to LA. It's sexy. It's all that stuff, and I agree with what Theo said too. I don't think if he plays this week, it's going to be tough to really trust him. But with injuries and bye weeks, you can always talk yourself into finding that second flex spot for him or something. The question is, would if you knew, would you start him over like a Rashad Bateman, like we were talking about earlier? But so I think selling him wouldn't be a horrible idea. But I think, like Theo said, this week maybe he doesn't play, maybe he does, but then they have a bye week after that. And I think coming out of that bye week, they'll have 2 weeks to kind of work him in there. And I think when you get these guys that are super talented, that are just head cases, when you can get them to buy in and you can get them like that fresh start, I think it really rejuvenates them. And so I'm not saying he's going to be a league winner by any means, but I think you're going to want to probably, if you have him, try to start him coming out of that bye week.
Yep.
Yeah, I would need to be super desperate to use OBJ this week. My guess would be that he doesn't even play. And if he does, it's going to be, a handful of snaps. Maybe he gets a few targets on those snaps, but I wouldn't want to bank on that. For the rest of the season, like I think I value him as like a wide receiver 4 who's probably going to have some spike weeks. So if you can get more than that in a trade, I would do it. I in general have always faded wide receivers on new teams. Now, like DeAndre Hopkins and Stephon Diggs kind of busted that recently, but I still think wide receivers on new teams, even when they join the new team in the offseason, I think they're good fades. When you join a new team in the middle of the season, like
you got to build a rapport, right?
Yeah, I mean, a new quarterback, new offense. Like that's not easy. The last thing about Beckham I want to say, remember too, there was that report. It was from Josina Anderson. He's playing through a grade 3 shoulder sprain, which is the highest grade. That hasn't gone away.
Yeah,
I think he might need surgery after the season. So like he's still an injury risk as well. So I'm with selling Beckham if you can get top 25 wide receiver in return for him.
Yeah, I think if you can get that sort of value, I think you take it. People get very optimistic because of the new news. But I think one interesting thing dynasty players could do, especially in leagues like the FFPC, where they're not incredibly deep, is go and buy Van Jefferson, because we all like Van Jefferson's talent. And you look at, it's kind of a fluid situation where OBJ is going to be a free agent at the end of the year. You can't project him to come back to LA necessarily. Robert Woods is getting older, and now everybody is, Van Jefferson is dust type situation. So that might be the pivot for dynasty. What do you think, Dan?
Yeah, I'm going to hang on to my Van Jefferson shares for sure in dynasty. I don't mind hanging on to that, but I'm definitely selling OBJ. And as JD mentioned, Donovan Peoples-Jones up in Cleveland makes an intriguing stash now as well. So that's where I'm going for that in dynasty.
And our buddy Wheeler agrees.
Yes. Yep. No doubt.
So, again, I feel like the NFL just knew that Sharks and Goats were going to party tonight, because you've got, our buddy Cam. Shout out to Sal. He put out a sweet pic with his Cam shirt. I don't know if you guys all saw that. But let's go to Carolina, guys. I mean, super flex. I know I've got Cam. It's not on a contender, but at least now I can maybe move him for something, right? Dan, I'll go to you first. You had the last one last time. Cam, what are your thoughts on the situation now with this quarterback?
I mean, it really can't get any worse for the Carolina pass catchers. Let's start there. I don't think Newton's arm is great anymore, but it was getting pretty bad there as it was. If you've got Robbie Anderson, you've maybe got a chance for a dead cat bounce here. If you get a good week or two out of Robbie Anderson, you can sell for sure. Newton himself, he's going to put up points with his legs. I think he's still a quarterback 2. I don't think he's a quarterback 1. I think he's a guy you can start in super flex. You're probably not going to start him in single quarterback leagues, but they had to do something in Carolina. I have my doubts that PJ Walker was going to be the answer. Obviously they had doubts too. This is kind of a feel-good story for Cam, and whatever you can do to get out from under Cam, this is probably your last chance to do so. So, if you're in Dynasty, I would be looking to move him here. What do you think, Jared?
Yeah, so I'll kind of make the same point I did with Beckham about a new offense. Like, Cam Newton spent 9 years in Carolina. That was not this offense. This is a brand new coaching staff. So he has a brand new offense to learn. That's going to take some time. We know PJ Walker is starting this week. I would expect them to try to get Cam ready for week 11. I don't know if you guys saw the contract they gave him, but $4.5 million guaranteed, up to $10 million. Like it's
wow.
It's like starters. It's starters money when you're talking about just half of a season.
Especially after leaving New England for $1 million, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think Cam's a starter the rest of the way. I don't think you're going to see Sam Darnold back in there even when he's under center, when he's healthy. I agree with Dan though. I think Newton's going to be a quarterback too because of the rushing. And for like DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson, I think it might be about a wash because Cam should be better than what we've been getting from Darnold for the past month. I also think Carolina's passing volume probably comes down though, just because Cam is going to run the ball a bit. So it might end up being a wash for those wideouts.
Yeah, I think that this was. I watched Matt Rule this week. We're talking to the media. I think this is that they trust their defense a great deal, and I think that their concerns were just not turning the ball over. And I think this was a very good move for that. So I think it's going to be like Jared said, a ball control offense. I'm hopeful that DJ Moore can maintain a high target share at least, but I'm pessimistic. But I do feel, with McCaffrey back and now Newton there, you have to feel pretty good about the Carolina defense, which I think is a nice, fantasy streamer. And I think that you have to feel pretty good about McCaffrey. But yeah, it's a great story. Newton was not happy when he left. I mean, it was a very unceremonious. The team tweeted out that he's allowed to seek out a trade, and he's like, "No, I didn't. Don't change this." And Greg Olson's like, "Yeah, this is what they do." So it's great to see that Carolina, is able to mend some fences with their, former MVP quarterback. Whatever you think, Adam.
Yeah. So I'm not a big analytics guy, but I think did Cam Newton play 16 games last year? I think he played almost a full season. I think he averaged 0.5 more touchdown passes a game than I did, and I recorded zero starts. So his arm is dead. As long as he can check the ball down to Christian McCaffrey, that's all I care about. Like, can you hand the ball off to CMC? Can you maybe help keep him healthy? I don't know how you're going to do that, but yeah, and what more disrespectful thing you'd say about a quarterback? Yeah, I think I could start him in a super flex, maybe. He's a top 24 quarterback. Yeah, he's dead. His arm's shot. Just hand the ball off to McCaffrey. I mean, I do respect the Panthers. They're going out. They went out and got Gilmore. They want to win. They're the Rams light. So I respect the move of trying to get better because Darnold wasn't the answer. I mean, kind of like you guys said, it can't get worse for the Carolina pass catcher. So there is that, but maybe it can. And at this point, Robbie Anderson people have been dropping him. Maybe now you hold him to see if maybe there's something there. But I'm not counting on Cam for much.
Can I defend Cam for a second? I think Adam
absolutely go for it, Jared.
Yes.
I mean, the lack of touchdowns were an issue last year, but look at the numbers. He completed 66% of his passes, averaged 7.2 yards per attempt. It was also a brand new offense for him then, possibly the worst wide receiver, the worst pass catching core in the NFL in New England. Plus, Cam had that bout with COVID early on in the season. That didn't help either. I don't think he's great, but again, I don't think he's completely dead. And I think he probably is better than Sam Darnold right now.
Raise your hand if you think that Cam takes away goal line work from CMC. There you go. There's your answer, Joey. Guys, if you're listening to this and you're not on with us live right now, join us weekly, man. 7-8. Drop your questions in the chat. We're going to answer them. We got a party going on right now in the chat. Shout out to everyone that's joining us. Smash the like, guys. That's your way of supporting the show. You see it on tonight. And every time we come live, we bring in like the best analysts, the best players on the planet when it comes to fantasy football. So show your support with a nice quick like. And actually, this next topic, we touched on this, guys, on Tuesday. We had Bip on, huge high stakes player, big volume player, and we touched on this running back, Dalvin Cook, having issues. I don't know how in depth people know about this. I was watching something. Supposedly his ex-girlfriend is like an army sergeant or something, and she like basically broke into his house with a stolen garage door opener and maced them in his face. And he had 2 guests over. She maced them in their face, and then she hit herself with a gun in the face, and then said she was gonna like extort. It's like a nightmare story from what I hear. And then on the other side, you've got our boy, shout out to Andrew Schellenberg, dropping back in 2015. Dalvin Cook had similar allegations. So again, I don't know how in depth, with kind of the history you guys are, but let's take this to fantasy, right? And I'll go to Adam. Adam, where are you with this Dalvin Cook situation? Where are your concerns, if any, when you're looking at your rosters?
Yeah, so I don't have a ton of teams that are doing really well that have Dalvin Cook. But if my top teams had Dalvin Cook, I would be so nervous right now, especially if I didn't have Madison, because stuff like this, man, you just never know. Video comes out, pictures come out. I mean, next thing you know, it's craziness. So yeah, I would be super nervous. I mean, there's nothing you could do about it. I mean, you can't really do anything at this point. Madison isn't available in any leagues. Like, you just have to cross your fingers and hope that A, he didn't do this stuff, and B, if something did happen, that it gets pushed into the off season or something. But I don't know. Domestic violence should be taken very seriously, and it is taken very seriously by the NFL. So we'll see. But I would be very, very nervous if I had Dalvin Cook on a couple of my really good teams.
Yeah, I mean, I'll toss it on that. I think with the NFL, I don't think they want to touch us with a 10-foot pole right now.
Yeah.
There's just not enough information out there. The stories are very conflicting. The evidence that has been put out there is somewhat conflicting. I mean, both parties are acknowledging that, there was definitely an altercation, and both are kind of acknowledging that they had something to do with it. But it kind of comes down to, who jumped who first. And that's going to be the hard part to sort out. If she jumped him first, then he's got the castle defense law in his favor. And if it was the other way around, then it's going to be pretty tough on him, pretty hard for him to avoid punishment from the NFL and avoid, getting nailed by a civil suit. But yeah, it's right now, I think, I'm not changing anything about what I'm doing with Cook. Dynasty wise, that's I think a little bit more of a question. But what do you guys see on this?
But before Theo takes this, can I ask a really dumb question from a Canadian, Dan? That law that you guys have in Minnesota, is that something that's in most states? That castle law?
I think so, okay. But I don't know.
Yes,
because I read about it and I wasn't sure.
In New York State, they have the same law.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, Theo. Go ahead, buddy.
No, I mean, we talked about this with BIP. I mean, I think that the worst thing you can do is just overreact. Don't go trading a 22 first for Alexander Madison in Dynasty, and don't go selling Dalvin Cook low, because I don't think this is something. I think the fact that it's happening this late in the season, the fact that there's no criminal charges, nothing like that. Most likely this is settled in the off season. So, in Dynasty, he's already. How old is Dalvin Cook at this point, Dan? 26.
26, yeah.
So 26, he's already getting a little bit up there as a running back in terms of age for Dynasty. If you're into age cutoffs and whatnot for Dynasty, so he's already kind of getting up to that level. But in terms of redraft, I mean, yeah, I'd be a little nervous, like Adam said, but I do think that this, until there's a criminal charge, I think at this point you should just kind of hang tough. What about you, Jared?
Yeah, as everything we know now, I don't expect Cook to be suspended. this season. Like you guys have said, no criminal charge. The NFL usually waits for the legal process to play out with these things before they do anything. Now that can change. If video emerges, like Adam said, or something else changes, that can always change. But I think the most likely outcome is there is some type of suspension, but that it comes in 2022. So from a dynasty standpoint, I was already looking to sell Cook this offseason in the dynasty leagues I have him in. It might be tougher now with this hanging over him. Although, I feel like, I don't know, maybe this is in less competitive dynasty leagues, but I feel like people kind of sometimes forget about this type of stuff as we get into the offseason. If we're in like next March or April, then maybe toss Cook out, put him on the block, and maybe an owner in your league kind of forgets that this whole thing is hanging over his head.
Yeah, I was just going to say people have short memories for stuff like that, or if he goes on an extended tear even this year, and you're not going to need him for the the playoff run, that would definitely be the time to move him.
Oh, Dan, you answered. I was going to throw the question. Anyone have anything to add with Devontae Freeman and Jalen Waddle tonight? Half PPR. We got Anthony O just asking if they're startable. Jared and Adam.
I'd start Waddle. He's been getting nice volume with Devontae Parker out. I think it's 9. I think he's averaging 9 targets a game with Parker out. So I'd start Waddle, and then Freeman. He's like an RB3 flex for me. So it would depend on your other options.
Yeah, same here. I would be excited to start Waddle actually. But for Freeman, unless I have him in a couple that I can't even get him into the lineup. So unless you're really desperate, he's hopefully 10 fantasy points.
Yeah, I think Freeman's kind of a flex at best type guy. I have one league where I'm forced to start him kind of begrudgingly because of lack of options and some injuries, but I'm not expecting much. Waddle's exciting tonight. This is a he should have game flow. He should get a lot of targets. Hopefully we get a little couple of downfield shots. It's been a lot of low ADOT looks for him, but I'd love to see a Waddle game. I think it seems like the kind of game where you're going to have a Ravens smash spot, but Gesicki and Waddle should both put up nice numbers.
Kansas City offense. We've talked about it on the show. Jared, Adam, we want to know your thoughts. Obviously, people invest in this offense for good reason, and it hasn't paid off necessarily this year. What are your thoughts on this offense? Is it necessarily broken? What are we doing with it moving forward?
I'm not going to pretend to be like a film expert and know like all the X's and O's of why they're struggling, but to me, there's just like too much talent in Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce for them to continue struggling to this extent. Maybe they don't return to the levels we've seen over the previous couple seasons, but Mahomes, as of like I think 3 weeks ago, was leading all quarterbacks in fantasy points. So it's really just been these past couple games where he hasn't produced for you. So I if you can buy low on these guys, I'd be doing it right now.
To me, it's not, and this is going to sound weird. It's not the offense; it's the defenses that they're facing, and it's the same problem that the Bills are having. It's the same problem that the Rams had on Sunday Night Football. It's these defenses are playing these cover 2 shells, and they refuse to let you go deep, and they refuse to give you big plays. And it's the defense that the Bills have been running for a couple of years now. So these teams, they have to stay patient. Kansas City has to stay patient. They got to play the underneath game. And, the teams that struggle the most against these shell defenses is teams that can't run the ball or won't run the ball. That's where the Rams struggled the other night. They 2 quick turnovers. The Titans got ahead, but the Rams can run the ball. They just decided not to. But Kansas City and the Bills, they got to get Allen and Mahomes outside the pocket more. They got to dink and dunk more. They got to run the ball more. The problem is Kansas City, they lost CEH, and he's coming back soon, but he's not very good. And the Bills have no running game. They have no run blocking line. They have no running backs that can run or really catch. So, I wouldn't panic in a sense that there's a problem with the offense. They just have to, when they face teams that don't run these shell defenses, I think they'll be okay. But the outside receivers, Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs, Emmanuel Sanders. These guys are going to struggle the rest of the year because just defenses aren't going to let them get deep on them, get loose on them.
Hey, Adam, remember when guys were taking JT behind CEH in rookie drafts? Like, come on, man. Come on, man. I think I even may have traded back from 1 to 2 and ended up with JT and Akers. I'm pretty sure that happened on an FFPC league. Just saying. I'll have to look that up, but I'm pretty sure that happened.
If there was ever an example for not overrating landing spots, it's that.
Yeah,
it's like before the draft, if you had said
Absolutely.
Edwards-Helaire had a Jonathan Taylor, people would have thought you were crazy.
Thank Kareem Hunt for that hype train. Dan, I'm going to go to you, brother. Oh, sorry, Adam. Go ahead.
No, that was me.
Oh, sorry, Dan. Go ahead.
So, yeah, a couple thoughts on that. I thought Mahomes had a really, kind of weird response to, what's going on in Kansas City. He basically said, we don't care what kind of defenses they're playing. We're going to keep taking our deep shots, which I, on one level, I kind of get. But on the other hand, they were talking about it in terms of, Kelsey was open underneath and, he didn't take the open pass to Kelsey. He instead took the deep shot, which got broken up. And it was kind of weird to me because I'm thinking to myself, well, that's, that makes sense to a certain extent. I mean, you can't completely, give up on the deep game. But on the other hand, if they're giving you the stuff down below, you might as well just be taking that and wait until the safeties start creeping down, and they start tightening up that shell and then start trying to hit the deep stuff again, instead of just sort of saying, well, this is what we do. And, I think there's almost a certain level of arrogance there, that maybe Reed and Mahomes have. Where they're saying this is what we do and nobody's ever been able to stop us. And, they've been stopped about 3 times in a row. At what point do they want to start paying attention to that? I don't know what you guys think about that, but that's what kind of came to my mind.
Anything to add to that, Jared or Theo? Or Adam?
I think it's really a landmine game this weekend. All the stuff Dan was just talking about. They have the Raiders this weekend. The Raiders beat them twice last year. And it's an offense that they're going to have to keep up with a little more. The last 2 weeks, they've been fortunate to get Jordan Love. And then before that, it was the Giants game. It's a really big one for KC. It does seem like Mahomes is forcing the ball downfield anytime that they have, struggles or the game is not going perfectly. He's just taking deep shot after deep shot. And it's a team that's not going to be able to do that every game. The defenses are defending them differently, and they're just very limited in what they can do. Kelsey and Hill are fantastic. And I do think that losing CEH, who's not that great, it did hurt them. It kind of made everybody's roles kind of change slightly. So maybe getting CEH back will help them a little bit. But I have concerns for them a lot more than I do for Buffalo. I think Buffalo just there's a little more there, and we've seen less games where they've struggled. But yeah, I'm kind of downgrading a little bit on the Chiefs, even though, Mahomes is like QB5 right now. So people are acting like he's QB13, but he's QB5, like Jared was saying. But I'm hopeful for Buffalo to bounce back. I think that the Jacksonville game is a little more of an aberration. Adam, you're more of a Bills guy than I am up in upstate. What do you think about that Bills offense?
Yeah, I think that they like I said, they gotta there's word out of practice this week that they've been, Gabe Davis has been playing a lot more in practice and they've been running the ball a lot more. Like, I think it needs to be a mentality with the Bills. Like, they've gotten so comfortable with Josh in shotgun and, just slinging the ball all over the field that they haven't, it goes back to the Chargers coach. I can't think of his name.
Stanley, physicality thing. That's a great point.
That's exactly right. Like, they lost that physicality. And I think McDermott's going to get him back on track with that. But listen, you can want to do it all you want. But when you've got a 3rd-round running back who hasn't shown anything in 3 years, when you have an O-line that's banged up, they're on their 2nd string guard and tackle, I think. Like, the Jets stink. I get it. And they're probably going to win, sure. But, it's just it's disheartening that they just haven't been able to. They haven't been really great all year. Like, they covered the spread against Miami fine. They did that late. So I don't know. I'm more of a pessimistic when it comes to the Bills, when it comes to stuff like that. But I feel like they can get back on track. I believe that. Like I wouldn't panic, but they just got to be smart about doing it. They got to take that neat stuff. Dawson Knox, believe it or not, is going to be a big help when he comes back because he can block and catch. So
he's back this week, isn't he?
He might be. He might be back this week. Yeah. So
it's in my fishbowl starting lineup. I hope so.
Yeah,
Come on.
There you go. That's right. So again, I'd be a little bit more panicked. I mean, I know Mahomes is only QB5, but they haven't been good since before the Super Bowl, and he wasn't being drafted as QB5. I mean, he was being drafted as QB1 or 2. So I think if you draft, and that's to talking about like. That's why you don't take quarterback early. That's why you don't take, landing spot that shouldn't matter in dynasty and all that. So, I mean,
especially the first one off the board, right, Adam? Especially the first quarterback off the board.
It's just Josh Allen. That's what you said, right?
The Bills fan comes out. I love it.
Right.
Adam Salty.
But yeah, that's my long-winded speech.
I gotta agree with Wheeler, man. My feeling tells me if I was a betting man, I love fantasy, but I don't bet on games. I think the Bills are gonna shred the Jets this week. I just feel it. I just feel like this is the game. And Dan and I just made a big move to pair up Diggs with Allen in a big money league for Superflex. So we're hoping that comes out.
I think one of the
courtesy of Theo, by the way.
Yeah, courtesy of Theo.
That was a blockbuster.
It was a sick trade. What did we? Let's let these guys. We'll let them know. We sent Pitts and Zach Wilson.
Yeah, it's for Dynasty Superflex, and it was and tight end premium and
two tight end
premium.
So we got Kittle and Diggs, and we sent Pitts and Zach Wilson.
So I'm rebuilding a little bit, and they're going for it this year. So we made a classic dynasty trade. Yeah,
everyone's a winner here. Everyone's a winner.
What a cop out! What a cop out!
He calls out his own boy. I love it.
All right, now we get to put Adam on the spot, though. He's called out Jared for copying out.
I'm over here stroking the beard, thinking about it. I mean, I absolutely love Pitts in Dynasty. Love him, and I'm not a huge Kittle guy only because he's always hurt. I said this before the year. I was taking Hawkinson. I mean, Hawkinson's been a little banged up, but Kittle, Kittle thinks he's a left tackle and wants to embarrass everybody that he blocks, and he gets hurt all the time. So but I also think Zach Wilson might be a problem. So yeah, I would go with the Pitt side.
I told Theo had the same exact thoughts, Adam, just in full disclosure here. He even said it to us. But before he took it, but I told him, like, you know what? He's a rookie quarterback. It's still super flex. It's quarterback. At the end of the day, you have tons of space to move that piece.
Sure. Yeah.
All right, boys. Smash the like, guys. Again, bring your questions. Smash the like. Dan, I'm going to go to you because we were talking OBJ earlier. We got Djax in Vegas. Kind of similar, like the 3. Maybe they'll use him as, I don't know, who knows, in Vegas, he might be the 1 at this point with Djax. But any thoughts on Djax in Vegas on this offense before we go to our Shark brothers?
That's, man. the Raiders offense.
Give Dan the best one.
Yeah, it's a tough one to figure. It's almost like Hunter Renfrow is kind of the, him and Waller are kind of the engines for the offense right now. Yeah. And, Djax is, I think he's going to be something less than what Ruggs could have been. But he still plays an important role on the offense, but it's probably more important in the sense that it's going to open things up for the offense in general, and it's probably going to open up things for Renfrow and Waller. And, and hopefully for Josh Jacobs in the running game too. But, Djax is always going to be that Hail Mary play. You're never going to feel good about putting him in your lineup. But the other guys, hopefully what that does is it kind of puts a little bit more of a solid floor under him because he helps open up the middle of the field a little bit more. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think he helps Derek Carr. I mean, I think it's a boon for Carr's value the rest of the way. And the Raiders have a really nice schedule, especially over the next month here. So Carr's someone I think you can grab and use as a spot starter here the rest of the way. I don't expect Deshaun Jackson to be someone you can rely on. I'm curious to see how many snaps he gets. They basically put Zay Jones in a full-time role this past game with Ruggs out of the way. So I don't know. I kind of bet they end up kind of splitting Jones and Deshaun Jackson in that, third wide receiver spot behind Renfro and Bryan Edwards. I don't think Jackson will be someone we can trust.
What the hell happened to Bryan Edwards last week? Can I ask that question? Like, I picked him up everywhere. I don't think I started him at maybe one or two spots, and I'm rolling through last Sunday night. Like, what the 0 points? Like, goodness gracious.
When they said he looked like Terrell Owens, no, they forgot to mention the fact that he looked like current day Terrell Owens.
That's right. That's right. So I think, like Jared said, I think he really helps Carr. Spread that field, helping Renfro and Waller underneath. I mean, the good news is the Raiders have, for strength of schedule, they have the fourth best moving forward here. They don't have any bad matchups left. They get a couple of good ones. Washington, Dallas shootout, maybe. Indy the last week of the year. So there is that, but he's old. He gets banged up. I mean, best ball, fine, but I don't know when I would ever start Deshaun Jackson. Really, I mean, if you weren't starting him for the Rams, I know he was the further down the list of options, but they got to build that. They got to build that rapport. So, yeah, I don't think I would ever have room for him.
Yeah, I think it's more of a stylistic improvement for the offense. I think Jared made a great point. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jared, but I think Zay led them in routes run last week. It was like a weird stat. So I think that Jackson should handle that role, and you'll see Zay mixed in a little more. It's Renfro. Renfro's kind of a sneaky guy. He's a really good bye week fill-in type guy. And Waller. Last week Waller had his best game of the season since week 1, which was kind of encouraging to see. So hopefully Jackson can provide that deep threat. And Waller will have a good end of the season, and Renfro can be usable. So that's kind of my hope. It's more of a stylistic ad. I think Jackson can still get behind a defense, and I think he's better than Zay Jones for sure. So it makes that spot a little bit better. And Bryan Edwards, I mean, I'm as frustrated as you are, Adam. I have him so many places, and it's just
me too.
You keep thinking it's going to happen, and it just I don't think it's ever going to happen at this point. We're waiting for Bryan Edwards' season to start, and it just
he's on what, year 3, Theo? Is he year 3?
No, it's year 2. Year two. He had he was a third round pick only because he was injured. He should have gone higher. If he didn't have that injury, the guy had all the metrics possible, the early breakout age, and 17 years old in the SEC, playing well, and he's got the size, and the media loves him, and it just doesn't happen. So he's going to stay on my bench, and it's a very frustrating player. Andrew Schellenberg in the house.
I couldn't miss Uncle Chaps. What's up? What's up, boys?
How we doing?
What's going on?
Oh man, this is great. I had to show up.
I love just so people just tuning in. Andrew's in between practices tonight for his kids. What is it? Soccer and basketball, I think, and he's in the car.
Glorified Uber driver, but here I am in the car, in the Chevy Tahoe with the podcast mic here.
Oh baby,
nice. And I love how. Hey, I did shout out your drop about the Dalvin Cook, and then you wore the Seminole hoodie. So if everything just fits perfect, we came full circle, brother. I love it.
Right.
What a mess.
Yes.
Nice.
All we need now are the oatmeal cream stout recommendations. I
had another one last night, so I'll have to send out that picture later.
Yes, definitely. We got to know.
That's what the people want on Thursday tailgates.
Well, we got to talk beer.
Got to talk beer on Thursday tailgate.
All right, let's answer a question real quick. Andrew, we'll get you an answer first, and then we'll go to the Sharks. Based on your previous podcast, tight ends are scoring it. Whoa, what am I doing here, Dan? Where's the question? Wasn't there a question on tight end?
Yeah,
there was one about starting.
Gesicki, there it is. Thanks, man. You guys. He's a must start. No, what are they? Third, giving up the third most points at tight ends right now.
Must start. Absolutely must start. Yeah.
I
think Gesicki's a must start every week at this point.
All around, Joey.
Unless you have
Put him in your lineup.
a better option.
Yes.
That's all day.
Yeah, it goes both ways. I mean, right now Gesicki is one of the main cogs in that offense, and then Baltimore has definitely been struggling against tight ends. So that's two arrows pointing up for it.
James Conner blew up last week. League winner moving forward, Jared, or is this kind of a 1 week, or maybe you get another one out of him?
No, I think he's a league winner as long as Chase Edmonds is out, which I expect to be at least 4 weeks. I mean, that's like the minimum for a high ankle sprain. It might be 6+ weeks. So as long as Edmonds is out, as long as Connor stays healthy, that's my big thing, because he has had a hell of a time staying healthy. Now he's going to be taking on more of a workload. But as long as he's healthy, I expect him to dominate carries and to do more in the passing game. I mean, he's been a 0 in the passing game there for most of this season, but he was not a 0 in the passing game in Pittsburgh. He can do that, and he did it last week after Edmonds left that game. So I think he could be looking at 3, 4, 5 targets a game too. So as long as he's healthy, I think Eno Benjamin, though, is a must-stash, because if Connor does go down, then Eno Benjamin is the next man up in Arizona.
Yeah, I think he can be a league winner if it depends on your build, right? Like if you went heavy running back early and you drafted James Conner, and if your running backs are healthy, Conner might not help you as much as he would for some 0 RB teams that drafted him. I know on almost all my heavy receiver teams, I was targeting James Conner. So he could certainly be a league winner in that aspect, and so I'm gonna double down on it, because now it's finally happening. I had this thing after week 2. I said every number 1 running back on their team is going to miss at least 4 games, and I said except for Chase Edmonds, because I have all the James Conner in the entire world. So finally, I was like Steve Buscemi with that list. What's that Adam Sandler movie where I was just crossing off names? There aren't very many starting running backs left that aren't going to miss 4 weeks. So
boy, I'm glad I called that guy.
That's right. So yeah, double down on James Conner. I think he's going to be really, really good. He's not going to be as good as last week. Again, like the reason why he got all the work was because I'm sure they weren't planning on obviously Edmonds getting hurt and having to give the work to Benjamin. So Benjamin probably wasn't ready. He wasn't running with the first team and all that stuff. So with this week, Benjamin's going to get more work, but that's fine, because we don't want Conner handling all the work anyways, because he'll get hurt. So yeah, I love Conner moving forward.
A shout out to Adam tweeting about all the Eno shares he got last night in waivers. I also got a lot of Eno. I added 14 shares of Eno. So I'm actually I think Conner should be treated as an RB1 absolutely this week and moving forward. But I am interested to see the split. Can Eno be a 35% snap share guy? I don't know if Conner is going to be like a 75%, 80% guy. I think Eno could carve in a little bit of a role, and when Kyler Murray gets back, I think that's an offense that's maybe the best in the league. So I am interested to see the split this week, and to see if Eno is a thing from the Cardinals' perspective. So I think you treat Conner as RB1, but I mean, I've seen some people talking about could he be a top 3 running back? I'm not sure. I don't know if they want to risk injuring Conner as well. Maybe keep his workload kind of manageable. But I'm all about Eno. I have a ton of Eno right now. So if Conner wants to take a week off, go ahead, Conner. I'm good with that one too.
Anything to add, Dan?
Yeah, I'm definitely in the pro Conner camp. I think he's got a lot to add. I think they're probably going to use him in a lot of the high leverage situations. He's probably going to continue to get the goal line work. He's definitely, as noted, a capable pass catcher. We saw that in Pittsburgh. And, a lot of people are throwing around, look at his yards per carry, and what they're not looking at is, like what situations he was getting carries in all year. He's getting carries in short yardage. He's getting carries down by the goal line. You're not going to get a high yards per carry there. And then also people are going in and he's scoring way too many touchdowns. His touchdowns are way over what you should expect. And again, look at where he's being used. He's playing on one of the best offenses in the NFL. Those kind of things matter, and those are the things that will support outliers for touchdown scoring. So I think Connor, as long as he stays healthy, it's wheels up. I mean, he's in basically almost every one of my starting lineups. There's, the way the season, turns for almost every team, by the time you get down to week 10, between buys and injuries and everything else, if you don't have a spot for Connor in your starting lineup, then, hats off to you. You've got a great team going.
Right.
So, you should feel very good about that.
My only Connor share is in the fishbowl. So that's apart from best balls, obviously, just talking like setting lineups. That's the only place I see him is in the fishbowl, and he's served me well so far. I'll take that. I wish I had him in Dynasty just so I could sell him, but like Wheeler says, man, dude's just fragile, Theo, I got to go to you first on this one. Who's your favorite tight end in the world, buddy? Who have you like he's kind of become the channel's tight end, like Mr. Fire.
We've been pumping Pat Fryermuth, basically since rookie drafts, and it's been a hit for the GOAT district. That's
we're in full victory lap mode.
Listen, we give you some good plays on the GOAT district. We have the rookie tight end we're touting all season. Drop a 2-touchdown Monday Night Football game for you with 20% target share. So, I'm all about Fryermuth. I think Fryermuth is a tight end one moving forward, and I think he's we talked about him in Dynasty. I think heading into next year, he's like in discussion for like top 6, definitely top 6 or top 8 tight end next year, and I think he'll have a number of top 5 seasons in the future. He's not Kyle Pitts, but he's a hell of a player.
I need Eric Ebron to come back very quickly because
you're a little late. You're late, man.
I'm beating Jared to the punch here because I was a big Fryermuth hater. Well, let me say, this is going back to draft, NFL draft, and people talking about the Bill should draft Fryermuth, and I was just like, no, I don't want Fryermuth. So I carried it over into fantasy season with me, but I will. He's looked really good. He's looked just faster and quicker, like more athletic than he did when he was in college. He didn't look that fleet of foot when he was in college, but yeah, he can block. He's like the perfect tight end for them there in Pittsburgh. So yeah, I would be buying in Dynasty. In fact, a buddy texted me yesterday morning, or maybe it was this morning, I forgot. He was like, hey, should I go get Kittle in Dynasty? I said, no, you should go get Fryermuth in Dynasty.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's good advice.
So I kind of hated texting that, but yeah, no, he looked really good, and he's got a rookie tight ends don't do anything ever. So the fact that he's doing this is pretty remarkable.
Yep, for sure.
Fryermuth was underrated because of Kyle Pitts. Like we were all comparing him to Kyle Pitts pre-draft. Like if Pitts wasn't in this draft class, Fryermuth would have been the clear top guy in the rookie tight end class. We probably would have been taking him at the start of the second round in these rookie drafts. Probably would have been a bit higher on him even in redraft. So I think that was the case there. Going forward the rest of this season, Eric Ebron's going to be back, but Chase Claypool is out now for multiple weeks. So there's going to be plenty of volume for Fryermuth to be a top 12 tight end the rest of the way.
Poor Maple Chan.
We need to get the Shelley opinion.
A lot of the Juju stuff underneath too. So that's Juju's not coming back. So.
Yeah, that's a good point. For sure. All right, guys, we got about five left. Appreciate you guys in the chat, Wheeler, Joey, everybody, Kyle, just dropping some great comments and questions. Guys, join us weekly 7 to 8. Theo will drop some names. We've got a serious schedule coming up in the next few weeks to help you, whether you're rebuilding, from this point on, or you're going for the ship and you want to take down that cache. We're going to help you hard. But as we go around really quick to close this bad boy out, I want everyone to give. We talked about James Conner. Is he a league winner? I want everyone to give one league winner that they think for the rest of this season can help, whether that's a sneaky guy, an obvious guy, whatever you want to give the peeps. Share your goodness, your contacts, your Twitter handle, your IG handle. Is that what the kids call it these days? They just like IG it, TikTok. I don't know if anyone does that, but whatever you guys want to share, man. We love you guys at DraftSharks. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us. We'll go kind of just with the flow of the screen here. Adam, I'll go with you first, brother. Thanks for coming on, by the way.
Of course. Thanks for having me. Yeah. So, it's league winner. There's just some guys that I have that I'm really counting on that have been injured, and there's a couple guys that I would want to say. Kadarius Toney, I still am stuck on him as being that guy that can be a league winner. And when I play in a lot of FFPC, I play in a lot of tournaments, right? So when I get to the big money weeks, the guys that win it for you are the guys that necessarily aren't the ones that got you there, because everyone's going to have Cooper Kupp. Everyone's going to have all those top players. Guys like Kadarius Toney, guys like Saquon Barkley. I think I was talking on Twitter with a couple of you guys about that. Like maybe he comes back and he can lead. He can be a league winner, big money, wife changing type money player. And then Antonio Brown might be my third, like another guy that was smashing. He's kind of disappeared for the last month. He's hurt. But if we can get him back, he's got that wide receiver 1 upside. Saquon's got that RB1 upside. And Toney, man, he's looked so good with the ball. They just got to give it to him, and he could be. I think he might be a league winner.
Yeah, I love your Toney call. I think that's the kind of player you're looking for. In these tournament type situations. Mine's a little less under the radar, but it's Hollywood Brown. I think Hollywood Brown is a guy who's just going to blow up as the season keeps moving along. If you believe in unrealized air yards, he's left a lot of points on the board despite an excellent season so far. I think he finds the end zone tonight. And I think Lamar Jackson is also going to be on a lot of teams who cash this year. I think Lamar is set to smash for the rest of the season. Everything seems to be moving in the right direction for the Ravens. Bateman looks like the real deal. Andrews is playing fantastic, but I think it's Hollywood Brown. I think you're going to see a number of games where he finds the end zone on deep balls, and maybe has a couple of 2 touchdown games as the season moves along. By you, Jared.
Yeah, I'll raise your Hollywood Brown with an AJ Brown.
Nice.
34.5% target share for AJ Brown over the last 4 games. Julio Jones back on the injury report with a hamstring. It sounds like he tweaked his hamstring again on Thursday, so who knows about him going forward. And it didn't show up in the box score on what was that, Sunday night, the Titans Rams game, because the Titans were playing from ahead. But if you look at the situation neutral pass rate, it climbed from 44% in the first 8 games to 54% in that last game against the Rams without Derrick Henry. So I do think Tennessee is going to pass it quite a bit more going forward. AJ Brown's going to continue to dominate targets. So AJ Brown, I think, is going to be a top 5 wide receiver the rest of the way. Then I'll also throw out just the entire Cowboys offense, coming off the clunker last week, obviously. But if you look at their schedule, Atlanta this week, then Kansas City, then Las Vegas, then they have a tough one against the Saints, but then Washington, Giants, Washington, Arizona. So I just think Dallas is going to find themselves in a lot of shootouts against a lot of bad defenses the rest of the way.
Theo, I agree. Hollywood was going to be in my player who's done well, but I continue to believe in and don't fade him, Hollywood. But to stay on brand, I have 2 wide receivers, and maybe this is just me trying to get it into existence, speaking into existence, but I have Brandon Ayuk and T. Higgins as my guys under like the Adam. Who do we think, again, speaking personally about my teams, like who, if I can drag these carcasses in the playoffs with, like if they get there and my guys Higgins and Ayuk pop, and I still believe in their talent. I think they can, and maybe Ayuk gave us the flashes last week. I know Higgins is on bye this week, but I'm really looking at those 2 wide receivers to pop in the money weeks and hopefully bring it home for me. So I may, again, like I said, maybe I'm speaking that into existence, but those are 2 guys that I'm looking at.
There you go. Yeah, so Jared definitely stole my guy, AJ Brown. To the surprise of no one, I was going to say AJ Brown.
Easiest schedule, no? Don't they have one of the best schedules, like rest of the season?
I think so.
They do have a good schedule, but yeah, for all the reasons that Jared said, but to come up with somebody else, I'll throw George Kittle out there. I think if he stays healthy, he's going to be smashing the rest of the way. He's, I love the, their schedule during the playoffs that San Francisco's got, and Kittle is a big part of that offense when he's healthy. And so, he's an easy one to pick. And, there's going to be a lot of teams that kind of got, that had Kittle that maybe won't make the playoffs. So hopefully, in some of the contest weeks, he's a little bit more of a rare find than he might have otherwise been.
That's the 60 guys. My guys were all taken through these other 5 geniuses. You guys, I mean, there was so much to talk about. I'm so glad that we got to, it kind of worked out. Like I said, the NFL knew we had the Sharks on tonight. We had to get some news with OBJ. What is that? Tom Brady. Oh, some more Joey Brown. Joe Brown's just loving it. He's showing us more love there on the screen. But guys, this was a ton of fun. Guys, go set your lineups. We got a big game tonight. Baltimore, Miami. Theo, I want you to throw a couple names that are coming up in the next couple weeks. Some of our guests, just so our peeps can make sure they subscribe and smash that like.
So we have Zachary Krueger coming up, great guest, NBC Sports Edge. We have Darren Armani, Fantasy Mojo, coming up. We have Chris Eibel, an NFFC Hall of Famer, coming up. I'm missing a few, but we have Josh Larkey's coming back in December. Jax Falcone's coming back in December. Have some Dalton Cates is coming on. He should be great. So we're really bringing in people that we think are very, very sharp to help you win some money and to help you win some leagues this year. And guys who we really want to talk about. And I'm very thankful that Adam and Jared came on. I highly recommend DraftSharks to everyone. These are 2 of the sharpest guys going, and they're pumping out great content. They're putting out great podcasts as well. So definitely check out their pod as well. These are guys with skin in the game, and these are guys that are extremely, extremely bright fantasy football players.
It's simple, guys. If you're not subscribed to DraftSharks, you're not following Jared or Adam, you're just throwing your money away. Just don't even bother. Hang it up. Tell the wife you're done with fantasy and move on with your life. But make sure you follow everyone on this screen. Keep joining us, guys. Every Tuesday, every Thursday. We'll be here as long as we have something to give you guys within quality guests and winning powers and info. Guys, stay well. Good luck this weekend. Bring the W's in week 10, and we'll check you all later.